allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Amanda, would you take the roll?
Councilmember Dalby.
Here.
Councilmember Myers. Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Councilmember Strebe.
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here. For the record, Councilman Myers is out of the state and on family vacation. Before we get into our agenda tonight, I'd like to recognize a couple of people who have really made a difference in our community. And so to start, I'd like to ask Chris Cobbler to come to the microphone and introduce his guest.
This lady here is Sue Smith, and I'm sure that all of you maybe have seen her downtown, working in the downtown area. She's our downtown maintenance person, and she's very instrumental in taking care of all of our flowers in the downtown area. And a lot of people know her for taking care of the flowers, but it's a lot of other things that Sue does that makes a big difference in our downtown. And I had to kind of make a list because she does a lot of things that people just don't know about. She also takes care of and waters the baskets that are hanging up in the downtown area. She also takes care of keeping the parking lots clean, picks up a lot of trash and things in the parking lots in the downtown area. The downtown parking ramp has a staircase in it, as you guys know, and there's times that things happen in there that it needs to be cleaned up. So Sue is the person that cleans that area and helps with that. When we had a downtown restroom, she was the person that cleaned the restroom and kept it clean. And she dealt with lots of different things in that restroom, like graffiti and other things that shouldn't have happened in there. She takes care of the bus stop downtown. She keeps it clean. If there's a trash can in the downtown that's overflowing, Sue calls me and lets me know so we can get it taken care of. We have some trees in the downtown area that have tree grates around them, and they get full of stuff or they get weeds growing out of them. And so she maintains those tree grates. She also sprays the weeds in the alley so we don't have a mess in our alleys downtown. Sue has been doing this job for 17 years.
Wow.
We have virtually no complaints about Sue. It's almost all compliments of things that she does in the downtown area to help make it a better place. And I have really appreciated working with her. She's one of these type of employees that you don't have to go tell her everything to do. She just makes things happen. She just does things. And I feel that Sue has been a super asset to the city and to the downtown of Ottumwa. So I just appreciate everything that she does on a daily basis. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. And in regard to that, Sue, we have a certificate we're going to give you in appreciation for the work you do to make our downtown look beautiful. The flowers and foliage and such a wonderful statement to the city and to the community. And I can't tell you the number of RAGBRAI people that complimented the flowers downtown. They just thought they were beautiful. So on behalf of the city council and the city staff, we'd like to say thank you.
Thank you.
The next person I'd like to recognize is a young man who has taken upon himself to really make a difference. And I think, again, just as Sue can make a difference, he has taken several of his friends out to do cleanup duty in our city streets. He's gotten involved. He had a good role model and example from his father, Joe. He helped spearhead the project Ottumwa to clean the streets of litter and debris. He's done Wapello Street, Elbia Road, Richmond, the Ottumwa Trails. He even dedicated his birthday to having a cleanup party, which I thought was unusual. Instead of being out partying, he was out working. And I think, again, he does it without any fanfare and without asking for any attention. So, Trayton Damerville, I'd like to have you come up and present you with a certificate of appreciation.
Honestly, they had me. I did not know until like.
Thanks to his family for keeping this a secret and surprising him. Okay, we'll need to have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
We always give citizens a chance to make comments on anything that's on the agenda. If there's anybody that wants to address the council, now's the time to give us your name and address, and we'll call you up. Seeing none, I'll move to the items on the agenda then.
Approve beer and/or liquor application for Appanus Rapids Brewing Company, 332 East Main Street, extended outdoor service area, pending final inspections. Recommendation, approve the license.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Amanda? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to City Administrator Andy Morris and have him tell us about the Buxton study. So Andy, you have the floor.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor and Council. With us this evening from the Buxton Group, Coney Gunniston. He's a gentleman who works for the Buxton Group. The Buxton Group is a company that uses studies, including analytics and everything from traffic patterns to consumer and customer behavior, to make assertions as to whether or not it is worth recruiting certain commercial, retail, restaurant entities that exist, as opposed to what some cities are faced with, and that is someone talks to a council member and says, how come we don't have an XYZ? And you try and make contact with the company. This, quite frankly, it cuts to the chase. The city I was in previously, Moberly, Missouri, used the Buxton Group. I'm a convert. I was not a tremendous fan of them when they first came to town. There is an expense involved, but after we started seeing 2 and 3 restaurants and some shoe stores, I decided to shut up. And they do very, very good work. I had an opportunity to run into Cody at the ICSC conference in Las Vegas this past May, and shared with the mayor and some of the council members not only some of the analytics, but quite frankly the screen that can track customer behavior. And it was just very, very impressive. So Cody's going to speak to us tonight. I just want to say very briefly, they do retail analysis. They've done that for the city of Newton. They've done identifying retailers and restaurants for the city of Cedar Rapids. I know that he'll speak more about what some of those items are, Mayor, and of course about the Scout program. But I'm very pleased that he was able to take time out of his schedule, and hopefully his presentation will be informative. And if council members have questions or comments, please entertain those. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Cody. You're welcome to Ottumwa, and we're interested to hear your presentation. So you can either sit there or step up the mic, whatever you're most comfortable with. And wondering about, can you all hear back there? Is the air conditioner a little loud? Maybe can we turn it down for the time being, and we'll, if it gets real warm, we'll turn it back on. Thanks, Gene.
Perfect. Mayor, council members, thank you all for allowing myself the opportunity to be here tonight to present to you the
Buxton Solution for Economic Development. Again, my name is Cody Gunstinson, and I'm the Director of Sales with Buxton. Now, I'm here tonight to talk with you all about how a partnership with Buxton will help the city of Ottumwa in achieving three main goals. And that is increasing and diversifying your taxable revenue base, strengthening and retaining those existing local businesses, and then improving the overall quality of life for both the current and future residents. Now, the way we go about helping cities achieve these three main goals is through the processes of retail recruitment and business retention. But before I get into those services, I want to take a step back and just bring everybody up to speed in terms of where Buxton got started in this industry. So over 25 years ago, we got started working directly with over 3,000 retailers for site selection services. And you can see a snapshot of some of those brands right here on the screen. But we've partnered with your Fortune 100s like your Walmarts, your FedExes, Target, all the way down to emerging concepts that have fewer than 3 locations. Pizza Ranch is a very local brand that I'm sure you're all aware of. They're a Buxton client. We're helping them to essentially strategically grow their brand across the country with confidence that they will go out and find those successful home run locations. But more importantly, it's helping that brand and over 3,000 others to mitigate the risk of opening a poor performing location. So really just helping these brands through a data-driven approach, go out and find the home run locations and mitigate the risk of the poor performing ones. Take that a step further. What you all see on the screen here, this is essentially a snapshot of our performance over the last 12 months. Every single one of these dots, both green and yellow, represents a location that one of our retail partners had evaluated, again, to determine if it was going to be that next home run location or not. So out of the 80,000 sites that were evaluated, 7,500 stores actually opened and became brick and mortar locations. Doing the quick math here, that's about a 10-to-1 ratio, meaning for every retailer, for every location that they move into, they're going to evaluate 10 to 12 different locations as well. So what's going to make the city of Ottumwa be competitive and stand out in an already competitive market? Another thing is, look at all the foot traffic taking place in the Midwest market where Iowa lies. Retailers are aggressively wanting to expand their brands to your market. And so it's got to be about having that proactive approach so you're not getting overlooked to go to the Cedar Rapids, to go to those significantly large areas that have established retail. Now, we got started in the public sector over a decade ago. So we've partnered with over 700 communities nationwide, some of which Andrew mentioned earlier, Newton, Iowa, Indianola, Spencer, Ames, Cedar Rapids. We've worked with all of these local municipalities in terms of helping them achieve those three main goals, finding the gaps in the city and then proactively bridging that gap through a data-driven approach, helping them to increase their taxable revenues and improve the overall quality of life for both their current and future residents. Some other municipalities I'll touch on here, very similar to the city here, is Williston, North Dakota. Although not in the Iowa market, very similar in terms of the population and the challenges that they go through in terms of recruitment in that more rural market. Watertown, South Dakota, again, very, very similar in terms of the population and the challenges that they go through for recruitment. Now, I just want to take a step back here and help everybody understand that Buxton's data is not just retail specific. In working with over 700 municipalities across the nation, we understand that each community has different goals and different initiatives that might not fall under retail. And that's absolutely why our data is definitely utilized in avenues outside of retail to cater to that. So working from right to left here, city services, libraries, parks and recreation, emergency services. We currently work with the Fort Worth, Texas library system. They have 5 locations and we're helping them make better business decisions through a data-driven approach. Who are my core customers? Do they prefer paperback or hardback? And then how can I find more of those individuals to open a new location around? Planning and insights, taking a look at that new mover impact versus what does the traditional resident look like here for the past 25 years. When bringing in new retail, as well as new industrial and commercial corporations, there are new individuals moving to the city to work, to travel, and live here. What is the impact those individuals bring back to the city? What is the value they bring back? What type of retail considers them their core customer? Visitor tourism convention. Tourism is a huge piece of our solution. Again, going back to quantifying the who, where value. Who's the core tourist coming to the market, that non-resident today? And then being able to track them back to where they reside, because our partnerships are a zip plus one through the largest credit card provider out there. and then helping to understand where are more like-minded individuals to market to drive more foot traffic back to the city for your local businesses to capitalize on. And then lastly is healthcare needs. We've partnered with over 300 healthcare organizations or healthcare providers across the country. Again, going back to that who, where value. What are the gaps in demand in that practice? And where do we need to bridge that gap with new practices, new customers, and so forth? But again, for all intents and purposes, I'm here this evening to talk about economic and retail development. So again, the Buxton solution is a two-pronged approach. First and foremost, it is retail recruitment. So being able to come out to the city and understand where are the gaps in demand in the community, why are your residents leaving the city to spend dollars elsewhere, and then helping you to proactively go out and recruit net new retail that's not only going to bridge that gap of demand that's not being met, but also drive more foot traffic back for those existing business owners to capitalize on. Second prong is business retention. We are not in the business of bringing in new retail that's going to kill your existing retailers. It's about understanding the gaps in demand there, and then what retailers are going to complement that existing business and drive more foot traffic back for them to capitalize on. We are a firm believer that a rising tide raises all boats. Now, the whole essence behind the Buxton solution is to get you all as the city to start thinking like a retailer. And the first step in thinking like a retailer is getting beyond the limitations of demographics. Communities in the past have always relied upon that demographic story to paint that picture to certain retailers as why they should locate here, why they would be successful in the city. But in this example, in this demographic information, you have two individuals living within the city, and that whole black fog of smoke, that's more individuals that look just like these two from a demographic standpoint. Age, income, marital status, they are identical. But when you pass this information on to a retailer, it tells them nothing as if, are they going to shop in my store or dine in my restaurant? It's not actionable information. So it's through consumer analytics, or psychographics, if you will, that we can start to understand and put some traits behind these two individuals and understand that they're extremely different. So now you have Ben Shaw on the upper left, Tom King on the bottom right. Ben prefers to shop at Sam's Club. He prefers to eat at Red Lobster and likes to watch movies in his home on Netflix. Whereas Tom shops at Costco. He prefers to go out to Texas Roadhouse and has 3 kids and like to take them out to a movie theater. So if I'm a Texas Roadhouse looking to move into the city of Ottumwa in the near future, where would I want to locate around? Where can I expect to pull my core customers? Based off the demographic story, I can't find those. It's not actionable information. The first step in the Buxton partnership, again, is getting beyond demographics, highlighting out of the gate for Texas Roadhouse. This is where you can expect to pull more Tom Kings who prefers to spend dollars in your type of restaurant. You will be successful around the Tom Kings, and here they are here in the city. So getting beyond demographics to truly paint that data-driven story that it's not just about location, location, location. You could have the best piece of dirt in the world, but if my core customers aren't living, working, and traveling to that area, it's useless. We're leading in with consumer analytics. Customer, customer, customer. Now, we always get the question, where does that information or that data come from? And really, at the end of the day, it comes from several different avenues. Mainly, it comes from you and I as individuals willingly leaving behind a trail of information, whether we know it or not. So think of that in terms of credit card swipes, loyalty and rewards programs, buying a car, selling a car. If any of you gentlemen or ladies play fantasy sports, we willingly give out that kind of information every single day. In fact, myself, I've left a tremendous amount of information behind in the past 2 days just by getting a plane ticket, staying in the local hotels, getting a rental car, eating at the local restaurants. We willingly give up that type of consumer analytic data every single day, and Buxton is the leading aggregator in this type of information. Nobody can touch the breadth and depth of data, knowledge, and expertise that we have in-house. You all can see on the screen, we source over 250 different data sets. We maintain information on over 130 million households nationwide and up to 7 individuals per household. We also have a strategic partnership with the largest credit card processor in the world. I'm sure you all could probably figure out who that is, but they allow us instant access to transactional level data. So I could truly sit back and look at every single household across the city and tell you, does the wife buy white wine or red wine? Does the husband, does he buy Bud Light or Miller Lite? Huggies or Pampers, Honda or Volvo? We can truly drill down to that granular level of information. And again, nobody else in this industry can do this because of the strategic proprietary partnerships that Buxton has in place. Now, the next step in thinking like a retailer is not to view your city in terms of your political boundaries, but more in terms of a drive time or market trade area. The reason we base our methodology off of a drive time trade area is because this is exactly how every retailer is going to view your city. So for example, Texas Roadhouse, if they were looking to come into the city, if they were a focus here, they're going to want to understand, where are you pulling my core customers from at a certain distance? Not looking at just your political boundaries. You might be 22,000 here in the city, but when we look at a 15 or a 20-minute trade area, that population significantly jumps up. Every retailer is going to view your market this same way. Now, once we understand that consumer profile, who those individuals are as consumers, how they live their lives and spend money, as well as that drive time trade area, again, how far those individuals are willing to drive in time to purchase certain goods and services, and then those retail market conditions are basically what we call what else factors. So looking at things like co-tenants, adjacencies, work time travel, daytime travel, it's through the marriage of these unique elements that we are able to come up and create your city's unique thumbprint. And just like every city out there has a unique thumbprint, every retailer from your Fortune 100s all the way down to your emerging concepts has a customer profile that they consider their core customer. So why this is important to you all is because at the end of the day, this is where we're taking the guessing factor out of this process and providing you data-driven results in terms of, first and foremost, what retailers are even looking to expand to the Iowa market. Well, we take it several steps further from there and narrow it down to another subset list of retailers who are not only looking to move the market, but more importantly, they're looking for the consumer profiles that your current residents have today. So it's no longer sitting back and throwing a dart at a concrete wall, hoping you're going to land a Roadhouse or hoping you're going to land a Burlington Coat Factory. It's about honing in and harnessing the Buxton data to proactively go out there and recruit these specific brands who are looking at your market and who would consider your residents their core customers. So once we have that targeted list of retailers that we're looking to go out and recruit, this is where we start to put that plan into action. So for every single retailer we find is a good fit for the city, we're going to build out customized recruitment packages for each specific brand. Because I'm sure you all know, our approach cannot be a one-size-fits-all. It has to be specific and custom to each brand in terms of who are their core customers in the city and where can I expect to find them. But we kickstart this process with an initial engagement from Buxton, basically stating that we've gone out, we've done our homework, we've partnered with with Buxton, and we found that your brand, we have a potential location here in the city of Ottumwa that would sustain your brand day in and day out. Be expecting a call from Andy in the near future. And that's where we would pass that contact information along to you all for pursuit and follow-up. But in these recruitment packages, it's going to contain a lot of market intelligence, a lot of market validation. Again, just proving the viability of this location for specific brands. But most importantly, it's going to contain that profile match report, or a site score, if you will. Why this is important is because, again, we come from the retail world and working with over 3,000 brands for site selection. We absolutely know what retailers look for in their next home run locations. So we formulate all of that information on one document and we write it in a retailer's language. That's a combination of the proposed location in the city. Also, your demographics, while they're a small piece of the pie, they're still an important piece. But most importantly, it's going to contain, as I'm sure you all know, retailers are not pioneers. They have to know, have we done this before in a similar city and were we successful in doing that? That's exactly what we're lining out at the bottom of this document. We're going to line out 8 to 10 locations that each specific retailer has on the ground today in similar cities to Ottumwa, and they're successful. So showing them out of the gate, hey, you have done this before, Texas Roadhouse. You were successful in a similar market, and you will be successful here. But it doesn't stop here. We have an account management team that's comprised of about 3 to 4 individuals who are fully dedicated to your city's success throughout this partnership. They are there in place to do all of this upfront legwork for you, getting those market retail matches, as well as building that customized recruitment package. And then that's where they want to ride shotgun with you, assist you all on conference calls with these retailers, assist you all with in-person site visits with these brands, represent you all at conferences such as ICMA and ICSC. The reason they're there in place is because You all are the experts in the city. You can speak to incentives and all of the beautiful draws that are drawing people in to the city, but we're the experts in retail. We come from that world. We speak that language. And I'll tell you, our most successful municipal partners are the ones who lean on Buxton to the fullest. Have us out here in person for site visits. Have us in, loop us into these conference calls with retailers. From a business retention standpoint, quite often we'll come out to the city and educate your existing business owners like the brewery and all these other business shops that are here in terms of what does the data mean to their brand? How can they utilize that information to strengthen their business and make better business decisions, keeping dollars locally versus spending outside of the city? Now, I know I focused a lot on retail recruitment, but again, our solution is a two-pronged approach. So I'm going to swap gears here and focus on what we bring to the table for your existing business owners. So there's a whole suite of products that we bring to the table to help your existing brands make better business decisions. Working from left to right here, starting with the household and workforce consumer profiles, helping your existing business owners understand who are my core customers day in and day out, and more importantly, what type of marketing are they most responsive to? Is it an email campaign? Is it a direct mail campaign? For those existing business owners, it's got to be about delivering the right message at the right time to the right household. Also going to be providing that supply and demand gap analysis, helping your existing business owners understand where are the gaps in demand in the city that their brand might fall under, and then helping them to better understand how to best stock their shelves and end caps to cut that leakage and keep those customers spending dollars locally. Consumer propensities report, or a merchandising analysis. This is powerful information that major grocers use day in and day out for shelf allocation purposes. So for example, I'm sure we've all in here been to 2 different Walmarts in 2 different cities. Well, both of those Walmarts are going to sell the same products in both stores. But what you'll start to notice is different is where the products are allocated on the shelves and the end caps. They are completely different in each store and each location because they're catering to that business's core customer in that area. We bring that same level of intelligence to your existing business owners, just putting them on the same level playing field in terms of information that major retailers have access to. And then lastly is demographic information on historical, current, and projected data. This is powerful information that can certainly be used in non-retail endeavors. So commercial recruitment, industrial recruitment, retail and those industries go hand in hand when trying to recruit. So think of it this way. If I'm a corporation looking to move my 300 employees to the city, I have to know, first and foremost, are my employees and their families going to be taken care of retail amenities wise? Do they have access for living facilities here in the city? I don't want my employees driving an hour, 2 hours away. Is the CEO's wife, does she have access to her shoes, her purses, day in and day out? So retail plays a hand in hand with industrial and commercial recruitment from a quality of life standpoint. Now, the one way that we make all of this information accessible to not only our private sector clients, our retail clients, but also our public sector, our municipal clients, is through our proprietary software platform called Scout Touch. You can literally think of Scout Touch as your window to Buxton. It is your ease of access for everything that we have gone through here today. Scout is not only used for business retention, but also retail recruitment. So within business retention, imagine if you're out at the local pizza shop and you're able to quickly pull up that business owner's specific drive time trade area and highlight all of the market intelligence he needs to know to strengthen his brand, to make better business decisions. At the touch of a button, you were able to do that through our proprietary SAF platform anytime, anywhere. Scout is also utilized for retail recruitment. So for every single one of those retailers that we find is a good fit for the city through the data that we're looking to go out and recruit, we're going to preload all of that information, all of the market intelligence for each specific brand into Scout Touch for you, accessible anytime, anywhere. Now, kind of take a step back here. We're also going to provide you all up to 4 different access points for this platform. So looping together multiple business entities in the city, from city council to the Chamber of Commerce to the Economic Development Group, bringing everybody under one unified platform in terms of what's taking place in economic development. But for each one of these specific brands, there's all kinds of market intelligence that they're going to have to know out of the gate before they ever even consider making a move. And we preload all of that information into Scout Touch for you, again, accessible anytime, anywhere. So picking on Target, Target's going to want to know where are the existing locations in the market from an over cannibalization standpoint? I have to know if there's another target in the market, how close are they? I can't over cannibalize and take sales from an existing location. They want to know what are the existing locations in the market. Competition, absolutely want to know what does the competitive landscape look like? What type of market share can I expect when moving into the city in the near future? Dominant segments are basically core customers. Like we said, it's customer, 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 not location, location, location. So we're going to highlight for each specific brand we're looking to recruit where they can expect to pull these potential core customers from and who they are. So out of the gate and letting them know, here's your potential core customers in this market, you will be successful here. Again, retailers are going to want to know that profile match report. They're not, retailers are not pioneers. They have to know, have we done this before in a similar market and were we successful? Again, preload all of that information here for you guys to use, access 24/7, anytime, anywhere. And then while you're on a conference call with this retailer in person at the ICSE conference in Vegas, you're able to quickly pull up this information and email it out directly to that decision maker at the touch of a button. So now that I've gone through both retail recruitment and business retention services, I want to wrap up and just give you an example of what it looks like from an ROI standpoint of recruiting retail. Now, I do know here in the city that property tax revenues is your biggest tax generator. I do know you exercise local option sales tax as well, but this is focused on just property tax. So just imagine when recruiting, there's 3 different types of retailers we could be looking at. A QSR, which is typically a $3 million valuation. And when I say QSR, I mean quick serve restaurants. So Chick-fil-A's, Subway's, Taco Bell's, those type of brands. When that's about a $3 million valuation. Now, these numbers are not exact to the city here, but just to give you an idea that ROI is built in this. If we recruit a QSR concept, that's a $3 million valuation. That's $87,000 in property tax, and roughly a third to about 40% the city of Ottumwa would get back. So just imagine on a yearly recurring basis, you're looking at roughly $29,000 yearly recurring revenue. If we move up and look at more of a medium box, which is more of your Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Sprouts, those type of brands, that's about a $6 million valuation. Brings $174,000 in property taxes. Again, about a third to 40% comes back to the city. So yearly recurring revenue, you're looking at $58,000 in taxable revenues that can be used to fund other city projects moving forward. And then lastly is big box retailers. So Walmart, Target, Hobby Lobby, brands like these. Typically a $9 million valuation would bring about $87,000 back to the city in yearly recurring revenue. So I just wanted to clearly state that there is an ROI built into the Buxton solution. You'll see a quote here down at the end of this page. It's from Marion, Indiana, where this community or where this study was done. But you can see while the initial cost of hiring Buxton was difficult at the time, it now seems as if it was a small drop in the bucket because of that millions of yearly recurring revenue the city getting back from recruiting retail. So now I just want to wrap up very quickly by giving you all an idea what it would look like out of the gate from the first 60 days of a Buxton partnership. So within the first 60 days, we would begin that partnership by assigning that account management team of 3 to 4 individuals, getting you acclimated and introduced to your day-to-day contacts. That's where they're going to do that formal kickoff analysis. So coming out and understanding the retail market conditions and then doing all of that upfront data legwork to get you all those market retail matches. And then that's where we're off to the races, helping you and assisting you in the entire recruitment process. That account management team, again, is a staff extension. They're an extension of your firm. They are a staff multiplier. They are there in place to help you with any retail recruitment or business retention endeavor. So I just want to thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to come out and present to you the Buxton solution this evening. Before I wrap up, I want to go ahead and open it up to any questions, concerns that you might have.
Thank you, Cody. And I want to encourage the council to ask anything that they want to know about Buxton or the process. Let's be sure that everybody gets a chance to ask a question, and we'll go back around again for a second and third question. So are there any questions that anybody wants to start with? Mark?
Thank you for presenting tonight. That was very informative. A couple of quick questions right out of the gate. You mentioned right at the beginning that you had opened 7,500 stores roughly. Specific to Iowa and much more specific to rural markets such as Ottumwa, what is your success rate in that? And have you already looked at the Ottumwa market to feel reasonably certain that you will be able to provide results for the citizens of this community?
Absolutely. So great questions, a couple there. So I'll start in the first one. So you're asking on success. How do we measure success? Again, very good question, but success really comes down to what your goals are for the city. Every single community, some of those that I touched on in Williston, North Dakota, Watertown, South Dakota, and those rural markets, their initiatives are extremely different. So success, while I can't guarantee success because each city's goals are different, I can guarantee that we will not only do that upfront legwork with you, we will provide you all of the data-driven story, not surveys and things such as that, but we'll provide that data-driven story. We'll provide you that account management team to be there the entire process to walk you through that. And I guarantee we'll break down communication barriers, get you engaged with the retailers that we're looking to recruit who are the best fit for the city as will fall in line with your vision for long-term growth. And I guarantee that we'll walk through that process and assist you in those conference calls. But at the end of the day, I cannot guarantee success. Success really comes back to what are your city's goals and what are your challenges that you go through. Some of our clients, Salina, Texas, 7-year Buxton client, their goals out of the gate were just to put themselves on the map and recruit anybody and everybody. They didn't care. Williston, North Dakota, it's a developer-driven process. Their goals and initiatives are completely different. So again, success goes back to what are your city's initiatives. The second question there, and correct me if I'm wrong, you asked, what are some of, I've done the research, what is some of the brands or retail that I feel would be a good fit here? No,
Generally, have you already looked at the makeup of the city of Ottumwa to see if the Buxton Group is a good match with the city of Ottumwa, that you'll be able to provide results based on what our goals are?
Absolutely. So I have done some upfront preliminary research, and I will tell you, here in the city, you guys are in a very good situation. You have a great downtown atmosphere. You have all of these local regional concepts that are pulling residents in off the highway. So one of the big questions coming out of the gate is, once we get them here, how do we keep them here? What retail and new corporations are going to keep individuals staying here and spending money? And I'm extremely confident that we can assist in that process and getting you engaged with those brands and then walking you through that process.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I've got a comment and a question. Thanks for coming and doing the presentation. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed our conversation very much before the meeting. Myself being a 3-year veteran now of the council, always and sitting on various boards in the city, I'm very, very skeptical when we talk about having consultants come and talk. In my past history, you can get consultants to come and tell you about anything you want to hear, and usually it's just ends up being a drain on the taxpayer dollar. However, I want to commend you and your firm. One of the things I noted while you're speaking is your connection and where retailers actually look to your firm, when they want to come and locate into a city. That's very valuable. A lot of times, like I can imagine in your industry, when you come and speak, that connection where you're the ones going out and they're not the ones reciprocating. That's very important because they look to you for information. You have a very respectable firm, no doubt. That seems to be very big in my mind. So hats off for that and your firm's reputation. One of the things that I know a lot of citizens will ask and have asked, we've spent many years as a city becoming, in fact, a decade now or more, becoming the retail hub of the area. And a lot of citizens ask, why just retail? Why not? We have an industrial component in our town too. Why just retail? And I think one of the things and one of the tie-ins that we need to probably correct here is why retail is so important and how it connects to industry. Being a council member, I can appreciate one of your last slides identified how that income and revenue that retail provides. Anytime you can like you mentioned, the rising tide floats all boats. When you get a lot of retail into an area or a city, that income and revenue can help a city, take care of some issues that they have. Like one of ours here is, wastewater. We can always improve that to take care of, wet industry that we seem to have an issue with attracting. So anytime you have an influx in revenue, which can be brought on by, an additional retail, that can patch a lot of holes in a city's budget where they have to upgrade things like that. And so could you kind of draw that parallel a little bit better than I probably may have tonight on how retail, an increase in retail can actually lead to an increase in industrial down the road?
Absolutely. Great question. So you're absolutely right. Retail and commercial and industrial recruitment go hand in hand. So I believe I touched on it a little bit earlier is just think of if we're looking to recruit a corporation that has 300 employees they're looking to bring here. There's a couple different questions, a lot of different factors that they're going to look at out of the gate. First and foremost is if I bring my 300 employees here as well as my wife or the CEO, are they going to be taken care of retail amenities wise? Do their families have access to the grocery stores, to the restaurants that they need and are accustomed to day in and day out? Think of it in terms of the wife of the CEO. Quite often we understand that the wife will make that decision. They're acclimated in the market they're in. So if they're coming to the city of Ottumwa and they don't have certain retail concepts that she is used to, that could be a determining factor for that brand to not come here. So quite often we find when recruiting corporations, industrial and commercial, having that established retail already here or in the works, having that long-term growth strategy in place will absolutely push those corporations over the hump to pull that trigger from a quality of life standpoint. If I bring my employees and their families and their kids here, are they going to be taken care of quality of life wise? So absolutely, retail goes hand in hand with industrial and corporate recruitment.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Got a question. Cody, great job with the presentation. That was excellent, very informative. I guess my question is also for the mayor and the council up here. We have people who get paid good money at the OEDC and at the chamber and the CVB. And I guess my question would be about relationships, communication, boundaries. Clearly, people who are doing this type of work when working with an outside firm, how do you handle those relationships? How do you work together, not step on toes? I was a creative for Kohler Company. I was a senior writer, and there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas in the same room. So how do you handle the communication, the relationships with the people that we have here that are getting paid to do the type of thing that you are?
Sure. Great question. So I'll kind of break that up into a couple different answers here. First and foremost, out of the gate, we would ask for a point of contact that we would work with day in and day out. So whether that's Andy or somebody from the economic development group, whoever that is, we would ask out of the gate to identify that. Now, what we've seen in our experience in working with over 700 municipalities, the ones who are always more successful take a team approach. Yeah. That's city council, economic development officials, chamber of commerce from a business retention standpoint, and even business savvy individuals that live in the city. The communities that take the team approach often always are more successful in terms of recruitment and retention. How we would work with that, again, we would ask for that one main point of contact, but we also do provide up to 4 different access points to our software platform. And keep in mind, we'll give you an iPad that's yours for the long haul, but it has all of that information preloaded onto it. But we're going to give you 4 access points to access that platform anytime, anywhere. So bringing in, again, Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development, City Council, any groups who would be influential in this process. So, like I said, what I've seen in our experience is the communities that take the team approach are often always more successful.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Matt.
We have a real interesting community, a great community that's unlike a lot of, communities. You've worked with Cedar Rapids and a lot of other bigger communities. How do you work with, smaller, unique communities? We have, a fair amount of poverty in our community, but that also probably lends itself to, how people buy, their patterns and how they buy and how they look at different retail stores, how they would adapt to certain, different retailers. I'm sure you have all the data to do that. That's the business you're in. How do you go about, and then that could probably be a 2-hour conversation, but how do you identify what kind of retail stores would be better suited for those unique communities, kind of like ours, other than big, communities with an unlimited amount of tax revenue coming into the city and, a very diverse, income, base income, median income other than ours?
Sure. Great question. So that everything you're asking is really part of that upfront legwork that we do behind the scenes. But really how that starts is we would want to come out and understand what is the city's long-term growth strategy or a long-term vision for growth strategy, right? What are the retailers that you all feel would be a good fit? Then we would come back and validate that. Does this retailer fit the demographics? Small piece of the pie, but it's still an important piece. Absolutely. Median income, poverty, things like that. Does this brand look at that individual as their core customer? If yes, absolutely, we would build that compelling data-driven story and walk you through that. If it's not, we would come back and want you to understand, you all as the city leaders, that I know this is a focus, but the data's not there. And I'm sure you all know in terms of recruitment, it's a long-term process. We are not going to give you a retailer match that is not looking or would not be a good fit for your consumers living here. So it starts with setting expectations. If this is an idea, validating it's a good idea through the data and absolutely walk you through that process. If it's not, while the data doesn't paint a compelling story for that brand, that concept is still a good fit. So we can take that concept to a local business owner or a local entrepreneur looking to expand another location. So it would really come back to setting realistic expectations out of the gate.
Thank you.
I've got something, but I want to skip.
Skip. Any questions?
Well, you talked more about retail than like manufacturing, and I would assume that you would need a lot of information from the city or OEDC to do your job. Is that a correct statement?
No, sir.
Like inventory of land available?
It is beneficial if you can bring that type of information to the table, but we absolutely do not require our public sector clients to bring that information. First and foremost, at the core, we're a data provider. More importantly, we're an answers company, providing answers across several different avenues you have questions for, whether that's retail, commercial, manufacturing, industrial. We are a data company. Data is great, but what you know to do with it is more important. That's what we do. So we're able to take that data and manipulate it in ways to help you make better business decisions for recruiting retail, for recruiting industrial, manufacturing, corporations, as well as strengthening the local brands.
So you just bring us back the data, and then it's up to us to try to convince them to locate here.
We would do that upfront legwork. We would give you the data. We would give you all the contact information for the contacts at the C-suite level for these brands. But then again, that's where that account management team comprised of about 3 to 4 individuals, they want to be in those conversations because you all are the experts in the city, right? You can talk to land use, available land, incentives, things like that. We're the experts in retail and in data. We can provide that data-driven story and then walk both yourself as well as those retailers and manufacturers through and help them understand why the city of Ottumwa is a good fit through this data-driven story.
So from the time that, say we contract with you, from the time you start, what approximately, or can you give us a timeline as to when we would have the results back?
Absolutely. 60 days is what we quote from the day we start. It's a 60-day process. I will say we're closer to 35 days. As an organization, we're always continuing and updating our methodologies to get better and faster at what we do. But we do quote 60 days out of the gate.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just a couple of questions and statements again. Cody, again, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us. I want to talk about 4 topics rather briefly. One is advantage, the other is data, competition, and then requests from constituents, which is a lot of what council gets. One advantage, it certainly seems to me, the city of Ottumwa has that other cities I've managed do not have, and that's we're a regional hub. There are a number of smaller communities, quite frankly, that look to Ottumwa as their commercial base. I can say, having managed a city before that was 25 miles north of Columbia, that has had its advantages and disadvantages. I think Ottumwa has a competitive advantage there because we serve a larger market.
Absolutely.
The regional hub concept, I think, is important to bear in mind. The data warehouse, which you talked about, and I'll just briefly pick on this. Cody and I talked about this when we met out in Las Vegas. That example of Texas Roadhouse. Cody was able at that particular time when I threw the name out of the company, he pulled up a map and instantly Ottumwa, Wapello County appears, and you start seeing the leakage. I was surprised. I thought, and I'm not saying this jokingly, I thought most people, when they ate out of town here, they went to Des Moines. There's a large number of people that go to Iowa City and to the east. But it showed debit and credit card quite frankly, traffic where people were going, which I thought was phenomenal. And that example you gave of the two gentlemen and some of their consumer tastes, I thought spoke to that very, very well. The other item I would mention, and Councilman Stevens talked about this a little bit, and that's the nature of competition. I won't name the company that you gave me when we were in Las Vegas, but I will tell you a story which I've conveyed to the mayor and I want to share with the council members as well. And that is sometimes recruitment has its downside. And an example of that was the example you gave of, I believe it was Denton, Texas, and then a suburb of Dallas. And when I finished the story, that cleanup, as I like to say, and that is Denton, Texas was approached by a fairly large retail furniture store and asked for a plethora of incentives for them to locate in that particular community. What the interesting thing I thought was the Buxton Group went back, found where one of their stores had already been located in an eastern suburb of Dallas, and they didn't give them any incentives.
Absolutely.
So you were able to go back to the city of Denton and say, it's not worth the candle. You can go to them and prove that unlike this suburb of Dallas, we're on a major interstate, before 35 East and West split. Your competitive advantage. I think as you indicated, not only did they locate there, but the city didn't have to offer them any of the incentives they were asking for.
Absolutely.
I think that speaks in ringing tones, because a lot of what we've unfortunately seen in the public sector as well is the company will come in and say, I'm going to locate here. I really want it. By the way, I need $500,000. And that turns that spigot off. I'm going to close with the last comment you made about requests from constituents. I appreciate what Councilman Dalby just spoke about here very briefly, and that is being cognizant of the fact that we're a community that has a fairly large low to moderate income population. And I know council members, I get some of this, but council members a lot of times are going to get requests. How come we don't have a Texas Roadhouse? How come we don't have Marshalls? How come we don't, and a variety of these come on. What I really like about what Buxton does is I like to say that data warehouse puts, as I like to say, some meat on that skeleton. And when you also have the ability to say, this is a good match for the city, but also to be brutally honest with the city. You know something, you may think that you can support a Dillard's as an example. The data just doesn't back that up. And if it doesn't, you can do what you want to do, but I'm not going to recommend you expend a lot of time and treasure to pursue that.
Absolutely.
I think that's of utmost importance. But again, those are just some comments I have. I very much appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and visiting with me when I was in Las Vegas on my own with my family. I was not there gambling. We were out, this vacation.
He was gambling.
I did not meet the dress code, but he did let me into the ICS conference. That's one other point I'll say, and the mayor and I have talked about this, and that is the importance of who is put in front of retailers who are trying to recruit. And I like the fact that Cody was just very, very specific about this and brutally honest, and that's this. I asked him, I said, in some communities they had the mayor and the city manager show up at these conferences. Does that make a difference? And he said, not really. It doesn't. Because there may be a politician and a government bureaucrat, but what they're really interested in are the analytics. And just like you pointed out with Councilman Stevens, you're going to be the first outreach to, if there's a particular retail entity or company out there that's suited for us, you're going to reach out to them first so they know it's not just a cold call.
Absolutely.
I think that speaks in rings. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Andy. Good comments. Cody, one of the things I said to you before the meeting, and I want to get on the table, is why should we select Buxton? I mean, just today, no kidding, today I got an email from the Retail Coach, and that's another firm that does much the same thing. So why should we go with Buxton versus the Retail Coach? And then secondly, I think we have not talked about what does this cost the city? And we need to have some idea of what you would be willing to do to work with us in that regard. So
Absolutely.
question.
So first part, great questions. First question is competition. Who are the competitors? Absolutely. Like you mentioned, Retail Coach, there are some other competitors out there. We like to think of them as perceived competitors. And there's 4 different advantages of a Buxton partnership versus what our competitors can bring to the table. First and foremost, it's our expertise in experience in the retail world, data and methodologies, the account management team who is going to walk you through that process, as well as the Scout Touch platform that's proprietary to Buxton only. Getting in a little more depth, when I went over that first slide, you saw the NASCAR slide, right? You saw all the some of the retailers that we work with. That tells you when I throw that slide up, I'm working at the C-suite level with every single one of those retailers, with the chief of real estate, the chief marketing officer, helping them to strategically understand where they want to locate a new location, and then validating it through data. Is this location a good fit, or should we focus elsewhere? Flip that story when our competitors come in and throw up a NASCAR slide, and they absolutely will do the same thing. That simply tells you that at the end of the day, they completed a real estate transaction with that brand. They took a listing, put it online, and waited for a retailer to come and buy it. That is a reactive approach. That is not a proactive approach. That's not a data-driven story. The second thing that separates second advantage of the Buxton partnership is our data and methodologies. Like I touched on, over 250 different data sets that we have in-house, the proprietary partnership with the largest credit card processor out there. None of our competitors can go out and get access to that information down to the doorstep, and up to 7 individuals per household in terms of spending habits. And then our proactive methodologies, walking you through that process, putting this consumer-driven story in front of these retailers rather than a reactive approach, waiting for them to come to you when you would probably get overlooked by the larger areas like Des Moines, like Cedar Rapids, like Iowa City. Next is that account management team. It's comprised, our whole account management group has upwards of 50 individuals in the team. That is more than 4 times the size of any of our competitors in this market. That in itself is a huge differentiator. And then the last but not least is Scout Touch, that proprietary software platform that is built in-house, proprietary to Buxton. It's geared for economic and retail development, while almost all of our competitors use Esri, which is an off-the-shelf type platform which all of you could go out and purchase.
So we would have access, and you said 4 platforms, so we could give one to the chamber, OEDC, or whoever, Main Street.
Yes, sir.
And they would have access to the same data then.
Absolutely. Up to 4 different access points for the same platform. So every group is on one unified platform in terms of what's taking place in economic development. But those are absolutely the 4 biggest advantages of the Buxton partnership compared to our competitors.
And then lastly, costs.
Sure. So I'll walk you through what our partnership looks like from start to finish, and then the associate investment that goes with it. So again, we at Buxton, we structure our agreements on a multi-year partnership or a 3-year term. I'm sure you all probably know the reason we do that is because retail recruitment is a process. It takes time. Retailers are laying out their growth strategy 12 to 24 to 36 months ahead of time. So we want our municipal clients on that same page in terms of that long-term growth strategy. Now, within the first 60 days of year 1, this is exactly what I was touching on here just a few minutes ago, is that's where we come out and do that upfront legwork. So coming out and understanding the retail market conditions of the city. What are the retail draws? What's going to draw individuals to the city? And then most importantly, what are the challenges, as well as what is the city's long-term vision for growth strategy? That's where we get that data to put that plan into action. So getting you those retail matches that we're looking to go out and recruit with you. And then that's where we're off to the race. All of that is done in the first 60 days. And then we're off to recruitment and implementation. We refresh that process in years 2 and in years 3, because I'm sure, again, you all know retail follows retail. Corporations, industrial manufacturing follows retail. So we want to build on that recruitment taking place. Maybe look at more of a specialized grocer or more manufacturing in subsequent years. So we want to build on that recruitment taking place. And the associated investment that goes with is a $50,000 yearly investment. Now, we absolutely understand that $50,000 yearly is not a drop in the bucket for Emily-sized community, and turnover and things do happen in the city. So we do put verbiage in our contract that lets you evaluate the Buxton solution yearly.
What does that agreement look like, the evaluation language?
Can you be more specific?
What does that allow you to do? Say after a year or 2, you're not satisfied with the outcome?
Absolutely.
What does it allow you to do?
It allows you to opt out. So after year 1 and years 2 and year 3, you can come back and sit back and evaluate, did Buxton deliver on everything promised? Were we as successful as promised? Did we get retail matches? Did Buxton break down communication barriers and get me engaged with retailers? And absolutely, can renew, we certainly encourage that, but it is an opt-out clause.
And we would, as we do with any contract, we would have our city attorney review it and make sure it protects the city, so.
Absolutely.
Any other?
I have one more question. While we're speaking of the contract, do you set a limit on the number of contacts that you make in any one particular year with a community?
Sure. So each year, we're going to provide 20 retail matches. Some of those might have one contact. Some of them might have multiple, depending on if it's a franchise concept or if it's a corporate concept. So we will provide up to 20 different retail matches each year, but also keep in mind, that's the data matches that we're going to provide. We're going to bounce those matches off of you all because, again, you're in the driver's seat. So we want to understand, here's the data, here's the retail matches that the data supports. Is this the vision of the city in the long-term growth? Does this align with what retail concepts you're looking for? So it is a fluid partnership. We will actually absolutely come back with the 20 retail matches, but we want to make sure that that is absolutely what the city wants moving forward. If one of those concepts is not a good fit for the city that you all feel and you don't want to see that here, we'll swap that out for another retailer that is a better fit for the city.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments?
While we're talking price and cost with the city, Minister Morris, I think price tag, roughly, we're looking at $50,000 a year for all 3 years. We're looking at $150,000 price tag. This partnership. Just to remind folks, and I know this is a work session or a special meeting, better said. If we were to go, and this is a big if, this is just a special meeting, no action will be taken, but part of this money, is it safe to say in future agreements, if we were to partner with the Buxton Group, this money would be split more or less in future contracts with OADC? That would just be part of that ongoing agreement, such as we did this year, part of the money being funding to Buxton, part of it being funded to OADC?
Sure. My first reaction initially, let me back up a little bit and talk about the funding for this. And again, the $50,000, it's an outlay. When the 2016-2017 budget was being formulated, I had just come on board. And quite frankly, this was an item that really came to my attention when we started talking about retail more forcefully. After that, the ink was already set and dried on that. I went back to the city finance director, went back to Bob J., and I talked with him about some scenarios that would allow us to align this money. As you know, the city funds OADC approximately $40,000 a year. The recommendation I made for some time, and council supported that, I'm going to particularly call out Councilman Stevens supported this, and that was putting language in the contract that spoke to recruiting, which was not there. That language was put in the contract. What I suggested to council was that we split that. You have a $40,000 contract, you peel off $20,000 of that, and then we're going to bond for the remaining part of that to capitalize the cost this year. I would like to see that placed in the budget in following years. My recommendation is going to be not unlike the community I came from. I think one and done is not enough. I think you need to. At the end of 3 years, you decide that it's a legislative decision. At the end of 3 years, if you're not getting the product, then I would recommend getting out of it. My hope is to have that in the budget, which would be the 17-18 fiscal year. But the topic of conversation in terms of funding that the city provides to OADC, I think is something that we probably need to discuss, perhaps at another meeting, another level.
Right, and the reason I asked that question is because this is a huge part of our economic development plan, and it seems like it could be a hugely successful part of our economic development program. And ongoing, just as a preliminary conversation, it seems to me, in just my opinion, it could be a pretty successful part. And if it is, the plan we have ongoing now to use some of those dollars that we fund with economic development seems to be a pretty positive way to do that.
Mr. Mayor, if I would like to make one other comment on that, I think given like a lot of cities, given our current approach to retail and probably even manufacturing recruitment is, there's an old saying in economic development, you shoot everything that flies and claim everything that falls. And I don't know that we're really, quite frankly, doing much of the shooting part in terms of recruitment on either end. I like what the Buxton Group talks about in terms of recruiting. You and I talked about at some length recruiting trips that I plan. In fact, I have one planned that I'm going to make later this month in the state of Illinois and want to continue to have more of those. But the retail part is something that staff is not particularly adept at. And that's something that they're going to speak more, I think, to the analytics of what I can tell them. Here's an industrial lot. We have water and sewer, but we have a write down on it. We can get you a low interest loan. We can use tax increment financing or something. But their world is a little bit more intricate.
Right.
Quite frankly, the advice and consent we can offer.
Right. And the last reason I bring that up is because, this comes at a price tag that could be shocking to a lot of people. And more or less, if that's the road we continue to go down and funding it as we have this year, 60,000 of that would already be budgeted for more or less every year. So it's not really that big of a price tag. I just want the citizens to be aware that that's, it's kind of a sticker shock, but it really isn't. We already fund some of that money for economic development. We would just be reallocating it to a study that's much more aggressive, I believe, than what we're doing now for economic development.
That would be my
decide.
recommendation as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Just my last question, I promise. I think one of the best indicators of the success of your organization might be for you to kind of let us know, you say you're offering 3-year contracts. Of the communities that you're working with at the moment, how many of those folks have actually re-signed contracts with you, and how many of them have dropped off the ball?
Well, great question. So I mentioned Williston, North Dakota. They signed on back in about a year ago, not even a year ago. They've already renewed for subsequent years because they're seeing the potential down the road. They're starting to see that investment pay off from yearly recurring tax revenues. Moberly, Missouri, that Mr. Morris used to work for, they just re-signed with us as well. So starting to understand that it's a long-term growth strategy. You're not going to hit a home run in just 6 months or 7 months. It's a long-term growth strategy. If a big box retailer is the focus, what's going to get us there to that point down the road? So I will say absolutely our most successful clients are the ones who have that long-term growth strategy in place for subsequent years. And if you would like, I'm more than happy to give you references for you all to reach out to get a hands-on idea if you'd like that as well.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Your Honor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
This is something important. I think we just need to spend just a little bit of time. I know we're dragging you out here, but would you say, in your opinion, the most successful cities are ones that are underdeveloped, or the ones that have a huge amount of big box stores, huge amounts of retail stores? Say compare Cedar Rapids to Ottumwa, Iowa. Who stands to gain the most with this development, you think, in your opinion?
That's a good question. It's a hard question to ask or to answer because Cedar Rapids or any larger metro, something like Ottumwa, the initiatives are completely different. Mm-hmm. Here, you're looking at recruiting maybe a new de novo build, a rebuild. Right. In larger metros, it's all redevelopment, downtown revitalization. So again, initiatives are completely different in those two examples. I will tell you that you guys are in a great setting in terms of you're a growing community. You're having individuals move here for new corporations. How are we going to cater to those individuals moving forward? What type of retail is going to cater to those, as well as bring more foot traffic back to the city to ultimately improve the quality of life for everybody?
It is a tough one. Thanks.
I don't want to belabor the point, but I think our citizens would probably ask the question. I noticed on one of your slides you had a Target store, and we just lost the Target. So how do you rectify those two issues of retail and commercial business when Target chose to leave our community? And I know they closed 113 or 14 stores nationwide, so it was not just Ottumwa.
Right.
But if we're looking at a Target kind of business and they chose to leave, what gives us the encouragement or the hope that somebody else would come in?
Good question. So Target, just like Walmart and some of those other Kohl's and brands like that, they are closing hundreds of stores across the nation, but it's more of a reorganization. They're not opening, Walmart's not opening huge Walmart stores anymore. They're neighborhood markets. Target is looking at their target city. So they're reorganizing their business plan. They're not opening big distribution centers. It's more of opening smaller square footage stores to reach out to previously unrealistic customers. Now, second question, if Target moved out, but Target was a fit through the data here, well, while Target left, we would understand that in that upfront legwork. Why did Target leave? Was it they were underperforming here, or was it part of a reorganization of their brand? Again, that goes back to doing that upfront legwork. We want to understand that out of the gate. We're not going to give you a retail match that had already left, is not looking to come here, and is not a good fit through the. We're going to be providing you retail matches, first and foremost, the ones you want, and secondly, that the data aligns. And then we're going to walk through that process with you.
Gentlemen, anything else before we? Well, then, thank you, Cody. We'll take it under advisement, and we'll look for a recommendation from our city staff.
Perfect. Well, I just want to thank you all for, again, allowing me the opportunity this evening. I hope you all found it most beneficial, and I will certainly continue my conversations with Andy moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cody. Thank you.
Last item on the agenda, there is an opportunity for anybody to address the city council on any city business. If there's anybody that wants to raise an issue. Seeing none, then I would entertain, is there any other city business from council? I just want to again reiterate, I know we had some sound problems last council meeting. We will be having a wrap-up meeting with Ragbri, and thanks to our good treasurers, we're just about finished with all the bills and the payments, so we'll be able to give you a summary, and we are going to do a community wrap-up. There will be a thank you party on August 29th from 5 to 7 at the Bridgeview for all people from the community who were involved in Ragbri. And I again thank all of our volunteers who did such an outstanding job for making it a success. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
6:43.